Alien women thought alien males were the strongest and most attractive until they saw human men.
Logan Merrick was supposed to be running quiet. His ship, Sable Vulture, a stripped-down smuggling cutter barely held together by patched hullwork and second-hand thrusters, had just broken orbit from Bastion 9. He wasn't carrying weapons. No contraband. Just a secure courier pod for a private client, destination classified. The job was supposed to be clean, land, deliver, get paid. Then the pursuit alarm started. The sky had gone red. Not from warning lights. Actual red. He broke Otmo over Varelian's upper atmosphere just as a patrol drone from the Varelian system came out of nowhere. No hail. No warnings. Just a sudden lock-on tone and plasma shots that lit up his NAV display like a fireworks show. He tried evasive maneuvers, diving hard through thick cloud layers, but the ship wasn't built for tight turns. Too slow. Too heavy. He lost control. The jungle rushed up too fast. Branches shattered on impact, some piercing straight through the hull plating. Sparks lit the interior. The flight console cracked under stress. The restraints held, barely, but his shoulder tore when the impact twisted his body sideways. Pain bloomed hot and deep, but he stayed conscious. Barely. When the ship stopped moving, it did so with a groan that felt final. The silence afterward was jarring. He hung upside down in the cockpit, blood running into his eyes. Smoke hissed from ruptured vents. A low-pitched hum, the sound of a dying engine core, filled the cabin like a threat. He clicked the release. The belt snapped open, and he fell, hitting hard. The metal floor burned his skin, still hot from re-entry. Logan rolled onto his back and took a breath. Then another. You're alive. Not lucky. Careful. Don't confuse the two. His father's voice in his head. Always calm. Always cold. The voice of a man who taught him to survive by never trusting the odds. Logan forced himself up, testing weight on his limbs. His left wrist was bruised, maybe fractured. Cuts across his ribs. Nothing life-threatening. He found his pack under a flipped seat, ripped the straps off, and stuffed in what he could. Medkit, flare stick, blade, sidearm. He reached for his boots, gone. One probably launched during the crash. The other was now part of the console. No time to dwell. He pushed open the emergency hatch and stepped out barefoot onto the soft, pulsing moss of Aurelian. The jungle was alive in a way he'd never experienced. Not just sounds, movement, constant motion. The trees swayed gently despite no wind. Their trunks weren't bark, but flexible, fibrous flesh. Red-veined vines moved with purpose, not breeze. He took a cautious step forward. Every surface seemed to breathe. The air was thick and hot, tinged with a metallic scent that clung to his throat. The light filtering through the canopy was turquoise, tinged with flickers of violet, reflecting Varelian's twin moons just cresting over the horizon. This was not friendly terrain. Logan adjusted the sidearm on his belt and moved. He had no idea where the nearest outpost was, if there even was one. Varelian wasn't mapped fully. The Resari Wilds were marked no-go in every trade manual he'd ever read. But he knew how to stay alive. He didn't need civilization. He needed cover, water, shelter, and to stay hidden. Hours passed. He moved with deliberate care, using roots for traction. Each step stabbed pain into his feet, but he didn't stop. His military training kicked in, scan, assess, adapt. Every few meters, he paused, listened, repositioned. The sounds of pursuit would come. The Varelians were known for their discipline and efficiency. He wasn't arrogant enough to believe they lost him. His thoughts churned. Why fire without warning? Did I trigger a restricted airspace? Was the courier pod bait? More questions than answers. And no time for either. The jungle thickened. Tall spire vines hung from twisted branches, glowing faintly with bioluminescence. Thorn brambles curled with slow motion, reacting to his body heat. Something watched him from the dark. He couldn't see it, but the sensation dug into his skin like cold. He stopped at a ridge, crouched low, and scanned ahead. That's when he saw them. 6 tall silhouettes, each over 2 meters. Female, weapons slung low. Their armor looked ceremonial, but efficient. Semi-transparent synth silk over hard composite plating. Their movements were smooth, in sync. Predators. No question. He backed away, slow and silent. Snap! A root. They turned. One shouted something in a tongue he only halfway recognized. Then, light flared. Plasma. Logan dropped instantly, rolled into brush, and broke into a sprint. Branches toward his skin. His feet bled. He didn't stop. A stun blast cracked open a tree trunk just behind him. Another shot nearly took his leg. He dived, slid through mud, and vanished into the underbrush. Breath ragged, heart pounding. A vine snapped around his ankle. He slashed blindly with his knife. Hit something hard, freed himself, then rolled down a slope into a trench filled with viscous water. His lungs burned. He surfaced beneath a root overhang, mud caked on his back. Then voices. Female. Close. Steps approached. He pressed his body low, breathing through clenched teeth. A tall shadow blocked the faint light. A woman stepped into view, commander by posture alone. Her armor was more elaborate, etched with golden inlays. Her skin was a silver-blue hue that shimmered subtly under the dim light. Her eyes were hard, predatory. Stand, she said in trade tongue. Logan didn't move. Another voice. He's not like the others. Look at his size. No bone plating. He's small, one said, scoffing. Logan stood slowly. I can hear you, you know. The commander's brow lifted. It speaks, and with attitude. She stepped closer. Her gaze swept across him, not with curiosity, but analysis. Remove the weapons. I don't think so. She blinked once. Her warriors raised their spears. One pulsed with a low hum, stun capable. Logan sighed. Fine. He slowly unhooked the sidearm, let it drop, lifted his hands. No sudden moves. They closed in, surrounded him. One of them, younger, hesitated. What is he? A male, clearly. Possibly mutated. Another added. Why is it clothed like a scavenger? Because I am a scavenger, Logan said. More or less. They bound him. Not with cuffs, but with living restraints. Vines that responded to touch and pulse. They weren't painful, but they moved. That was worse. The commander walked beside him as they led him toward a black, spider-like carrier. She said nothing, just glanced at him occasionally, like she was trying to figure out if he was dangerous or a curiosity. Logan studied her face in turn. She was beautiful, but not soft. Her features were angular, sharp, a warrior who had never known fear. And yet something in her expression, not doubt, exactly, but caution, stood out. Inside the carrier, the walls pulsed with dim light. He was pushed into a containment cell. The door sealed with a hiss. He sat, leaned against the wall. His shoulder throbbed. His feet ached. His hands were starting to go numb from the binders. He exhaled slowly. What the hell was this place? Why did the Varelians shoot him down without warning? And what would they do now? From outside, a voice echoed. High Command will want to see it. It, not him. That told him everything. They didn't see him as a man, just something different, an unknown, a specimen. He rested his head against the wall. Next time, he muttered to himself, take the damn courier job on Riven Station. Boring's not so bad. Outside, the jungle roared, and somewhere deeper within, something worse was coming. He could feel it, and so could she, Commander Zeraval, who stood just beyond the cell, watching him not with contempt anymore, but with interest. The interior of the carrier was cold and quiet, lit only by the soft pulse of alien biolights embedded in the ceiling. Logan sat against the cell wall, arms resting on his knees, body still aching from the crash, the chase, and the restraints. The silence wasn't peace. It was tension before something worse. He'd felt it before. War zones, black site interrogations, dead outposts just before a trap sprung. His thoughts circled. Why did they shoot me down? Was I a threat or a target? What the hell is in that courier pod I was delivering? No answers yet. But he was sure of one thing. His being here wasn't an accident. The carrier jerked slightly, changing direction. Outside his cell, the silver-blue figure of Commander Zeraval remained perfectly still. Arms folded, back straight, face unreadable. Logan studied her through the organic bars. She hadn't spoken to him since they locked him in, but she hadn't left either. Not once. She was watching him, not with distrust. Not anymore. It was something else. Curiosity, maybe, or evaluation. He broke the silence. You going to stare all night? Or are you waiting for me to do tricks? Zara didn't flinch. Her voice came calm, clipped. You don't behave like a male. Logan raised a brow. Not from your world, sweetheart. That much is obvious. She stepped closer. The cell lights responded to her movement, glowing faintly along the walls. Your physiology is inefficient, she said. You lack bone armor. You're smaller. Your musculature is lean. You rely on soft tissue protection. You make it sound like I'm a badly designed weapon. Zara tilted her head. Varelian males are bred to be physically superior. Larger, stronger, obedient. Logan smirked. Yeah, well, human males come with sarcasm and free will. Apparently, that's rare out here. Something twitched at the corner of her mouth. Almost a smile, but not quite. She stepped back. A younger huntress entered the carrier from the forward hatch. She saluted Zara with a hand to her chest. Commander, High Council requests immediate transport. They want the male secured in the Capital Research Bastion. Logan frowned. Research Bastion? That didn't sound like a friendly debriefing. Zara gave a subtle nod, but her eyes didn't leave Logan. She was thinking. That much he could tell. She dismissed the huntress with a wave and waited until they were alone again. Logan leaned forward. They want to dissect me, don't they? She didn't answer directly. You were found in restricted airspace, near our sacred hunting grounds. Unauthorized entry is not tolerated. I was shot down. No warning. No contact. You crossed the line. I didn't even know it existed. Zara narrowed her eyes. Intent is irrelevant. You survived. That makes you unique. Logan exhaled slowly. So, what? You treat uniqueness like a virus to be studied. She didn't respond. Instead, she turned and walked toward the control panel embedded in the wall. Logan watched her closely. She hesitated. Just for a second. Her hand hovered over the command glyphs. Then she pressed something too lightly to trigger the security override. A decoy move. She wasn't ready to hand him over. Not yet. The carrier descended minutes later, the soft whine of the landing gears activating. Outside, through the organic slit in the cell wall, Logan could make out the capital. It wasn't what he expected. The Varelian city was built into a massive stone rise, like a jagged black cliff fused with technology. Smooth obsidian structures jutted out like blades, lit from beneath by slow pulses of violet and gold. Bridges of living metal twisted across towers. Glowing sigils shifted and reformed on the walls. Everything looked alive, less like architecture and more like an organism growing in controlled chaos. No visible vehicles, no civilians, just rows of guards in ceremonial armor, female, tall, disciplined. They weren't just a military society. They were something older, ritualistic. The doors opened. The guards waited. Zara didn't move. She turned to him. If I take you to them, you will not leave intact. Logan looked up, jaw tight. Then don't. She studied his face. This time longer. He wasn't pleading. He didn't beg. He wasn't even angry. Just tired. Determined. Zara made a decision. She tapped a glyph, and his restraints fell away. Before Logan could react, she stepped into the cell and shoved him back against the wall, her arm against his chest, face close. Not hostile. Controlled. Listen carefully, she said. There is a tunnel beneath this carrier. It leads to the outer rim of the Capitol wall. I will give you 90 seconds before the alarm overrides my authority. Logan blinked. You're helping me escape? I'm correcting an error. You mean letting me live? She didn't answer. She reached into her belt, pulled out a small bio device, and pressed it into his hand. Map fragment. It'll lead you out of the city. He stared at her. Why? For the first time, her voice dipped. Lower. Slower. Because you made me feel something I wasn't built to feel. Logan froze. Then he nodded once. I'll find a way to pay that back. Zara stepped back and hit the release. The floor under his cell shifted, peeled open like a hatch. Cool air rose from the depths. Logan looked down, then back up at her. She didn't flinch, didn't move. Go, she said. He didn't hesitate. He dropped into the dark below. Behind him, the hatch sealed silently. Zara stood alone in the dim light of the carrier. Outside, the guards waited for her report, and she knew, sooner or later, this choice would catch up to both of them. The tunnel was narrow, damp, and alive. Logan dropped hard onto a surface that flexed beneath him, organic stone, laced with pulsing veins of light that dimmed at his touch. The hatch sealed overhead with a soft hiss, and for a moment, he was surrounded by silence thick enough to feel. He got to his feet slowly, flexing his sore wrist. His shoulders ached from the impact. He checked his sidearm, still there. The biomap Zara had given him flickered in his palm, projecting a semi-transparent path ahead. It marked a winding route through the understructure of the Varelian capital, a path he never would have found on his own. He moved, careful to stay quiet. The corridor wasn't made of metal or concrete. Everything around him pulsed faintly, like the inside of some vast organism. Soft bioluminescent nodes lit as he passed, then faded. The air smelled sterile, but tinged with something sweet, maybe a defense mechanism, maybe a trace of whatever powered the strange organic tech. As he walked, his mind churned. Why did she help me? What does something I wasn't built to feel even mean? He thought about Zara's face, the way her voice had shifted at the end. That wasn't military protocol. That wasn't cultural obligation. That was personal and dangerous. If her people discovered what she'd done, letting a live alien escape custody, betraying a direct order, it could cost her everything. He clenched the map tighter. He'd remember that. Up ahead, the path narrowed into a chute. Logan slid down without hesitation, landing in a shadowed alcove just beneath a cluster of curved pipes that exhaled faint mist. From here, he could hear sounds above, distant voices, footfalls, and the steady thrum of energy generators. He paused. Where's the courier pod? It had been the whole reason for this job. Sealed, unlabeled, not to be opened or scanned. He hadn't thought much of it when he took the assignment. Just another shady errand. But now, the Varelians didn't shoot him down randomly. Someone had flagged his cargo. And if they wanted him captured and studied, the pod might be even more valuable or dangerous than he realized. He cursed under his breath. That meant going back. He crouched beside a vent shaft, peered upward, and tapped the map device. It blinked, then reconfigured. The pod was still marked, not far from the crash site. Outside the city, buried somewhere in the jungle. Still retrievable. He could escape, vanish into the wilds, complete the job, maybe find a way off this planet. Unless they caught him first. The tunnel curved again. He followed it upward into a narrow junction and spotted faint light bleeding through slits in the wall. He crept closer. On the other side, a chamber bathed in violet. A command room. He saw Zara. She stood in front of a projection table with 3 other high-ranking Varelian females. One of them, a tall figure with deep blue markings and gold-trimmed armor, was clearly in charge. Her voice was sharp, authoritative. We found no record of a species in the archives. His biometrics are unpredictable. His pain thresholds abnormal. Another added, he disarmed our stun arrays without implants. Escaped from living restraints. His reflexes mirror enhanced scouts, but he bears no graphs. No signal trace. Nothing artificial. The leader narrowed her eyes. So he is not manufactured? No, he is human, Zara said, calm. You are certain of this? Yes. Then why is he gone? Zara paused, just long enough to make it noticeable. He escaped during the transfer. He must have anticipated our security protocols. The lie hung in the air like smoke. The others exchanged glances. And your guards? 2 injured. Not critical. The leader nodded slowly. We must retrieve him. The High Council has authorized capture or termination. He is to be returned dead or alive. Preferably alive. For study. Zara didn't flinch. Understood. The projection dimmed. Zara stood there for a moment longer after the others exited. Alone, her expression shifted, only slightly. Tension around the jaw. A slow exhale. Then she turned and left. Logan moved quickly. He couldn't stay here. If they scanned this area, the tunnel would be sealed. He followed the exit route the map provided, pushing into a sloped corridor that opened to the outer shell of the capital wall. Ahead, a narrow vertical shaft led to the open jungle. Vines curled through the gap, and beyond them, he saw moonlight bleeding into the forest canopy. Freedom, but no guarantees. He climbed, slow and careful, slipping through the last slit of wall and tumbling out into thick brush. The air hit him like a wall, hot, wet, thick with scent. Chirps, growls, the buzz of insects. The Resari wilds were waiting. He moved fast. He had one goal now: reach the crash site, retrieve the pod, get off-world, figure out what the hell he'd been carrying, and why it was worth dying for. As he ran, something nagged at him. Not a sound, not a presence, a thought. Zara lied for me. Not because she had to, because she chose to. And in a world where every action was law-bound and ritualized, that meant something deeper. But what it meant, he wasn't ready to guess yet. Not until he got the answers. Not until he opened that pod. And not until he figured out whether Zara Vol had just sacrificed her future to save his life, or started a war neither of them could stop. The jungle was louder now. Logan moved fast, weaving through the crimson foliage, ducking under low-hanging vines that pulsed with a faint internal light. Every step sent pain jolting through his bare feet, torn from sharp roots and scattered thorns. The humid air clung to his skin like wet cloth, thick with pollen and strange pheromones that made his eyes sting and chest burn. He didn't slow down. The crash site was 3 clicks out, maybe less. He checked the map fragment Zara had given him. Still tracking, still stable. The pod's location blinked faintly in a holographic overlay, like a beacon in a storm. Just get there, he told himself. Grab the pod. Get out. Deal with the rest later. But the later part wouldn't wait. His thoughts were spinning. He hadn't signed up for this. Courier work was supposed to be clean, neutral. No questions asked, no trails left behind. This was a war zone in disguise. And the woman who had every reason to kill him had instead handed him a way out and lied to her command. Zara's face wouldn't leave his mind. Not just the way she looked at him before he escaped, but the control in her voice. The way she hadn't hesitated until the very end, as if she'd already made the decision long before he asked her to. His foot hit a slick patch. He skidded, caught himself against a tree, and crouched low. Ahead, movement. Not Varelians. Not wildlife. Ravka beasts. 3 of them. Massive, low-bodied predators with plated spines and glowing teeth. They circled near the wreckage of his ship, drawn by the scent of scorched metal and dried blood. Figures. He watched them carefully. They were hunting each other more than him. Territorial. Good. That bottom time. He crept around the ridge, staying low. His ship was a burned-out husk. One wing buried in the soil, the cockpit collapsed inward. But the pod compartment, near the aft section, looked intact. He counted the distance. 40 meters. Too exposed to sprint. Too close for another route. He didn't have time for stealth. They'd catch his scent sooner or later. Logan tensed his legs, took a breath, and sprinted. The Ravka noticed instantly. One roared, charging. He reached the wreckage just ahead of the beast. Ducked under the hull. The pod was jammed in its socket, partially covered in collapsed paneling. He braced a shoulder and pushed hard. The metal groaned, but gave way. The pod slid loose, heavy but intact, sealed with biometric locks and a solid-state shell. Behind him, claws scraped metal. The Ravka was trying to crawl in. He grabbed the nearest shard of plating and jammed it into the beast's mouth as it lunged. Sparks burst as the metal caught against its fangs. Logan kicked it back and rolled out the other side, dragging the pod with him. The second Ravka came in from the left. Logan didn't fight. He ran. His lungs were on fire. The pod was heavy, awkward, covered in grime and seared residue. His shoulder screamed with every jolt. Behind him, the beast thundered through the jungle, crashing through trees, howling with frustrated hunger. He didn't look back. After 2 clicks, the terrain changed. Vines grew denser. The trees narrowed, forming tight corridors of light and shadow. The pod's glow flickered, then stabilized again. He ducked into a natural alcove, half hidden behind a wall of moss-covered stone, and slumped to the ground. He couldn't run much longer. He rested the pod beside him and stared at it. What the hell is inside you? He touched the control panel. No response. Biometric lock. No access. Not unless he had the right clearance or the right DNA. He took a slow breath and checked his surroundings. The Ravka hadn't followed. Not yet. The jungle masked his scent well enough in here. He pulled his knees up and rested his arms on them. For the first time in hours, the adrenaline started to fade. And with it, the exhaustion hit hard. He felt the aches in his back, the cuts on his legs, the weight of not knowing who to trust, what he was carrying, or how the hell he was going to survive on an alien planet where he was officially classified as a specimen. The pod pulsed once like a heartbeat, dim and subtle. He stared at it, then a sound behind him. He turned, fast, but didn't reach for his weapon, because standing at the edge of the alcove, partially hidden by the vines, was Zara. Her armor was different now. No ceremonial pieces, no glow tech, just a stealth cloak draped over her shoulder and a bone-forged dagger sheathed at her thigh. Her hair was unbraided, loose around her face, wet from the jungle heat. They locked eyes. Neither spoke for a moment. Then she stepped forward and looked down at the pod. Her voice was steady low. "You found it. Didn't have much of a choice." She nodded, almost like she'd expected that answer. Logan stood slowly. "You followed me. I covered your escape, then wiped your trail. If they track you again, it won't be from me." He had her carefully. "Why?" Zara hesitated. Then, "Because they don't know what they're carrying either. And that scares me more than you do." Logan glanced at the pod. "You think it's a weapon?" "I think it's not meant to reach its destination." They were quiet again. He stepped closer, lowered his voice. "They're going to come after you. I know. They'll try to break you. I won't let them." A beat passed. He looked into her eyes, those sharp, golden eyes that once held only cold authority. Now, they held something else. Not warmth, not softness, but intent. And that was more dangerous than either. He swallowed the lump in his throat and asked, "What now?" Zara looked at the pod, then back at him. "We open it." Logan blinked. "It's locked. Biometric. I know a way." He frowned. "You have clearance?" "No, but I have blood." She unsheathed her dagger. Not toward him, but toward her own hand. And for the first time since the crash, Logan felt something unfamiliar. Dread, because whatever they were about to open, someone had gone to a hell of a lot of trouble to keep it sealed. And Zara was ready to bleed for the truth. Zara didn't hesitate. She slid the blade across her palm with practiced precision. Not deep, just enough. Silver blue blood welled instantly, glowing faintly in the jungle light. She pressed her bleeding hand to the biometric scanner on the pod without ceremony. A low chime responded, then a hiss. The locking mechanism blinked once, then twice, then disengaged. Logan took a step back, every muscle tensed. "That's not a clearance code. That's a genetic override." Zara didn't answer. Her eyes were locked on the pod as it slowly unfolded, layer by layer, like a shell peeling open. Steam rolled out first. Cold vapor poured from the inner chamber and kissed the humid jungle air with an unnatural chill. Logan raised his sidearm without pointing it directly, just in case. His breath caught when he saw what was inside. It wasn't a weapon, not in the traditional sense. It was a child, a Varelian child, young, maybe 4 or 5 in human years. Female. She lay motionless in a semi-liquid stasis cradle, cords gently pulsing from her arms, her chest rising in faint, rhythmic intervals. Her skin was pale, even by Varelian standards, almost translucent. No ceremonial marks, no bone plating. Pure, unaltered, untouched by caste conditioning. Zara went completely still. Logan's voice dropped. "You know her?" Zara shook her head once. "No, but I know what she is." He watched her closely. "Talk to me." She stepped closer to the pod and stared down at the girl, her voice flat, but heavy with something deeper. Shame, maybe, or realization. "She's a prototype, not bred for war, not enhanced. This child, she was designed to be forgotten." Logan frowned. "Meaning?" "Meaning she's proof that our perfection is manufactured, that we weren't born superior, we were built that way. And this," she gestured toward the child, "is the kind of truth the High Council buries in the dirt." Logan's thoughts raced. This was the cargo? He crouched, scanning the pod's control array. Why smuggle her out? Zara's jaw tightened. Someone inside the capital sent her off-world. probably to a rebel faction or an exogenetics tribunal. But the shipment was intercepted. They never expected the transport to crash on Varelian. Logan looked up at her. So when they shot me down, it wasn't about me. It was about her. His hands curled into fists. He'd nearly died. Zara had lied. Everything had spiraled into chaos over a secret child the ruling caste wanted erased. He looked at the girl again. She didn't stir. "She's stable?" he asked quietly. Zara nodded. "The stasis will hold. For now." Logan exhaled. "Then we need to move." Zara looked at him sharply. "You take her. Wouldn't leave a kid like this behind." "I'm not wired that way." She studied him for a long second. No words passed between them, but something shifted again. The distrust that had narrowed into caution was now something else entirely. A mutual understanding neither of them spoke aloud. Zara broke the silence. "There's a covert dock east of the Resari Basin. I can get us there." "Then let's move." Logan reached into the pod, gently lifting the girl into his arms. She weighed nearly nothing, her body limp and cool from stasis. She didn't wake, but her fingers twitched once against his chest, like her body knew it was being held. Zara covered the pod with leaves and moss before stepping beside him. Her dagger was already back in her belt. She tapped the control on her wrist bracer, activating a stealth cloak that flickered around her for a moment before fading into partial transparency. Logan glanced at her. "You always come this prepared?" Her tone was dry. "Only when I commit treason." They moved quickly, keeping to the edge of the thick jungle walls, stepping carefully between bioluminescent roots and hanging vines that twitched at motion. The night was full of alien sounds, clicks, warbles, predator calls in the distance. Logan held the child close, one hand always free, scanning ahead. They didn't speak again for over an hour. When they finally reached a ridge overlooking the basin, Zara slowed to a halt and crouched low. Logan dropped beside her, laying the girl gently on the moss beside him. Below them, nestled between cliffs and thick canopy, a ship waited. Sleek, black, compact, designed for stealth insertion and quick evac. Not Varelian. Human make. Logan stared. "That yours?" Zara shook her head. "No, it's been following us since the crash." He narrowed his eyes. "Then someone knew I'd make it out alive." Zara nodded slowly. "And now they're here to finish what the council couldn't." He looked at the girl again. Whatever she was, whatever secret she carried, it had just made them both targets on more fronts than they could see, and it was too late to turn back now. The landing site was too quiet. From the ridge above, Logan scanned the basin below through a cracked visor lens he'd salvaged from his own wreckage. The ship resting at the center of the clearing was matte black. No visible insignia, no running lights. Too clean, too quiet. Human tech, maybe, definitely not Varelian. Zara crouched beside him, perfectly still, her gaze locked on the terrain like she was reading it. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "That's a recon class dropper. Low orbit insertion. No onboard AI. Operated by crew only. Friend of yours?" Logan muttered. She didn't answer right away. Not likely. He adjusted the girl in his arms. She was still unconscious, her breathing steady but shallow. Her skin, translucent and faintly glowing, made her look more fragile than she was. He hadn't stopped thinking about the implications, how she existed outside the caste system, how she was alive at all. A pure Varelian, untouched by enhancement, bred for nothing. Just born. A truth no empire wanted known. Zara pointed to the tree lean 50 meters west. "There. Cover approach. If they're watching the ridge, they won't expect flank movement." Logan nodded. "What if they are watching it? Then we improvise." They moved in silence. Zara led, knife drawn. She shifted through the underbrush like liquid shadow. Logan followed, the girl secured against his chest with a strap from his pack. Every step he took was deliberate, but he wasn't built for stealth the way she was. His breathing was heavier. His weight broke twigs. The jungle didn't hide him. It merely tolerated his presence. When they reached the ship's edge, they crouched behind a thick curtain of violet leaf flora. The landing gear was extended. A faint hum rolled from the undercarriage, auxiliary power still active. No motion, No guards posted outside. Too easy. Zara reached forward, pressed her palm against the moss, and whispered something in her native tongue. A moment later, the ground near the rear hatch shimmered, thermal distortion. Cloaked sentry, she said. High grade. Military. Logan gritted his teeth. Trip it, and we're toast. I can disable it, but we'll only have one shot. He glanced at the child. Let's make it count. Zara circled wide to the far side of the ship, crawling low until she reached the main vent array beneath the propulsion pods. She pulled a small bone-etched spike from her belt, organic tech, and jabbed it between two access panels. A second later, the shimmer of the sentry field flickered, just a stutter. But enough. Logan moved. He dashed toward the ship, ducking under the hatch lip and pushing through the airlock. The interior lights activated with a low hum, revealing a narrow corridor lined with modular seating, gear lockers, and a control bay up front. Then he heard footsteps. 2 of them. Fast. Logan backed into a corner, tucked the girl behind him, and drew his blade. His sidearm had only 2 charges left. The first figure rounded the corner, tall, armored in dark polymer plating. Not Varelian. Human. The mercenary raised a weapon, pulse rifle, medium charge. Logan didn't hesitate. He lunged low, drove his shoulder into the man's side, and slammed him into the bulkhead. The rifle clattered to the floor. The merc swore in English, thick accent, possibly colonial French. Logan twisted, elbowed him hard across the jaw, and dropped him. The second one entered a second too late. Zara followed, silent as death, and took him from behind with 2 strikes. One to the neck, one to the spine. He dropped without a sound. Logan pressed his back to the wall, panting. You always this efficient? She didn't answer. She was already checking the cockpit. He stepped over the mercs. These guys aren't council. No insignia, no reg tags. Private extraction team, Zara confirmed, scanning the NAV panel. The ship was pinged by a covert signal relay. Someone hired them. Then someone knew exactly what cargo was in that pod. Logan said, his voice hardening. Zara looked up, and it wasn't the council. He stared at her. Then who? She didn't respond. Not immediately. Her fingers moved across the console. Then the screen flickered. A playback log displayed a recent transmission. A recorded order, audio only, scrambled origin. Package is to be recovered intact. Human asset is expendable. Destroy the female if she interferes. No witnesses. No deviations. The message ended. Silence. Zara's fists clenched. She turned away from the screen, her breath controlled, but not calm. Logan ran a hand over his face. So that's it. I was just the mule. Not just, Zara said quietly. They expected you to die. You didn't. That changed the equation. He stepped closer. Who's they? Council operatives? Zara shook her head. No. Council would have claimed the asset openly. This smells like something else. A splinter faction. Military black cells. Those who think purity is a threat. He looked down at the child, still asleep on the padded bench. What do they want from her? Zara spoke without looking up. To erase her, and everyone who knows she exists. Starting with us. Yes. Logan stared at the NAV console. Then we're not flying this ship. No. He turned to her. So what do we do? She met his eyes. We take her off-world another way. Logan frowned. We don't have another way. A pause. Then Zara tapped her bracer again. This time a deeper signal. From behind the ridge, something stirred. Moments later, a deep, low rumble vibrated through the jungle floor. Leaves trembled. Roots parted. A hidden structure, half buried beneath the earth, began to rise, coated in moss, armored, and alien. Not human. Not Varelian. Logan's eyes widened. That's not yours. No, Zara said, her voice even. It belonged to the ones we don't speak of. But I found it. Years ago. I kept it hidden. I didn't know why. She looked at the child. Until now. And as the concealed alien ship rose from the earth, humming with forgotten power, Logan realized 2 things. They weren't just carrying a child. They were carrying a revolution. The ancient ship hummed with a voice that hadn't spoken in centuries. Its hull was buried in layers of moss and vine, but beneath the grime was a sleek, seamless structure smooth, iridescent, and far more advanced than anything Logan had ever seen. No rivets, no seams, just curved alloy that responded to Zara's touch like it remembered her. They moved fast. Zara worked the controls of the primary console, her movements efficient but tense. Alien glyphs responded to her gestures, half remembered from her secret study of the structure years ago. Whatever species built it was gone now, but they had left something behind that could still fly. And it would have to. Behind them, the human dropship was in flames. Zara had rigged it to blow before they left, taking the mercenary command codes and all tracking data with it. No trail, no trace. But it wouldn't stop pursuit for long. Logan stood near the rear of the cockpit, cradling the girl in his arms. She had stirred once, just briefly, her eyes fluttering open to reveal pale, golden irises. She hadn't spoken, but she was awake now, alert, watching. Zara's voice cut through the low hum of the ship. We're clear of the basin, but we'll need a break through the upper orbital grid. I can mask our signature for 10 minutes at most. Logan stepped forward. Will that be enough? She didn't look back. It has to be. Outside the viewport, the jungle blurred past in streaks of red and gold. Then the trees broke, replaced by rising cliffs, and beyond them, the sky. Violet, star-streaked, and crawling with patrol drones already triangulating their escape vector. Logan tightened his grip on the child. What happens if they catch us? Zara's response was simple. They won't. She pressed her palm to a central console. The ship pulsed once, then accelerated, not with thrust, but with seamless force. Gravity shifted. Logan nearly stumbled, bracing himself against a curved support beam. The child didn't move, eyes still fixed on Zara. Then the warning chime started. Lock on signature, Zara said, scanning the upper grid. They're launching pursuit drones. 6 of them. Fast. Armed. Logan stepped to her side. Weapons. Zara shook her head. This ship wasn't built for war. Then what was it built for? She didn't answer. Outside, a flash of light. One of the drones opened fire. Plasma bolts streaked across the sky, exploding harmlessly behind them. The ship veered, fluid and organic, avoiding each shot like it could feel them coming. Whatever this thing is, Logan muttered, I'm starting to love it. Zara allowed a breath of tension to leave her chest. Don't thank it yet. 2 more drones closed in. One fired. The impact shook the rear stabilizers. Zara's fingers flew across the controls. We're losing altitude. Not enough lift to break orbit. Logan looked down at the child, now awake, sitting up slowly. She was still silent, but something in her eyes had changed. She blinked once, twice, then lifted her hand and touched the ship's wall. A low resonance filled the air. Zara froze. What is she? The controls surged. Power level spiked. New systems lit up across the console, systems Zara had never seen. Symbols she couldn't read. The engines didn't roar. They shifted. The ship launched upward, cutting through the atmosphere like a whisper. In seconds, they broke the cloud layer. Stars opened above them. The drones tried to follow, but fell behind, their engines sputtering under the strange pressure now radiating from the alien ship's core. One by one, they dropped off the radar. Logan looked down at the girl. She wasn't smiling. She wasn't afraid. She was calm. Zara stared in disbelief. She's interfacing with the vessel. Logan nodded slowly. She's not cargo. She's the key. They crossed into upper orbit. The ship stabilized, drifted into position. The starscape unfolded around them. Open space, quiet and vast. No pursuit. No weapons. Just freedom. Logan looked at Zara. Now, what? She didn't answer immediately. She stood at the viewport, staring out into space, her expression unreadable. Then she turned to him. My name is going to be burned from the registry. I'm already marked for execution. If I go back, it's death. Then don't. She nodded. I won't. She stepped closer, her voice lower. I don't know what this child is going to become, but I know what she needs. Safety, guidance, protection. Logan shifted the girl in his arms. You think I'm that guy? Zara studied him for a moment. I think you already made that choice. A beat. He held her gaze. What about you? She looked away, toward the stars. I was born to serve the council. trained to believe power was virtue. That duty was identity. But then a man fell from the sky, barefoot, bleeding, and still fought harder than anyone I've ever known. And I started asking questions. Logan chuckled. You always talk like that. She raised a brow. Only when I'm tired. He stepped closer, just enough that the space between them disappeared. You said you weren't built to feel. I wasn't. Are you feeling something now? She didn't flinch. Yes. He kissed her. Not because the moment demanded it, but because it felt earned. Real. Not romanticized. Grounded in shared survival, sacrifice, and trust. When they broke apart, she didn't step back. Outside, the stars waited. Zara moved to the console. There's an outpost on Polari Theta. Remote. Unaligned. We can start there. Logan looked at the child, now fast asleep again, one hand still resting on the wall. And after that, Zara looked at him over her shoulder. We keep moving. We find whoever sent her. We make them answer for it. He nodded. And together, without ceremony or flag, they disappeared into the dark. 3 fugitives, bound by accident and choice. Not to save the galaxy, but to start something new, something honest, and maybe, just maybe, rewrite everything.